started Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, because, you know, the kingdom, when we say it's on Yah's kingdom, but a harbinger is one that goes before a king or an army to announce their arrival and make preparations for their stay and for the people to receive them. And I realized that our people are not preparing properly to receive the Most High's kingdom and for the Most High's kingdom to receive them, because there is something that was missing. And I was trying to figure out, what is this thing that's missing that would actually get us prepared? Well, I realized that thing was our culture. The culture is missing, because if you look in what people call the Tanakh or the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament, right, what you see there that's called the statute, laws, and commandments was the culture that they had. It was refined to be a theocratic system where the Most High is chief of state, and then everybody else trickles down in that hierarchical order, right? And then with that, there are different things that they did, what's called customs and manners, right? And I like to show some of that to you later on as we build, my sister. But then at that time when I prayed and he gave me that name for a ministry, I said, that's powerful. And the thing that really woke me up was when I read the Brit Hadashah, right? The first thing was I started reading the Old Testament for some time. And I was like, man, there's some stuff in there I never heard before. I was just blown away by it. But when I got to the New Testament and I saw that Yeshua was preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and I'm like, wait a second. I know about the gospel of Christ, but he's talking about the gospel of the kingdom. I said, and I had to think about that, because I'm like, man, I don't remember really hearing this in church before. And then I looked to see, okay, so, you know, I knew about hermeneutics. I learned all of this from Christianity. And I said, okay, let me go back and do this hermeneutics thing again, identifying who the author is or the speaker, and identify the immediate audience and what would have been understood by the immediate audience by the things being said by the speaker or the author. And he kept saying that this is to his people. Matthew chapter 10, he told them, don't go by the way of the Gentiles or in the way of Samaria, but only go to the lost sheep of Israel. Matthew chapter 15, he says to the woman, the Phoenician woman, I've come only but to the lost sheep of Israel. And then he kept talking about the lost sheep, the lost sheep, lost sheep, lost sheep. And then he was doing something that I call spiritual etiquette. Now, what does that mean? Well, one thing I realized in the text, it talks about some kind of banquet or feast that's happening in the end time. But before that feast or banquet occurs, there's some etiquette you have to learn in advance. That's the message right there, because our people don't know the etiquette in order to properly perform in the kingdom. So when you're raised in a particular, let's say, blue blood society, right, the one main thing that they teach you in order for you to assimilate into that culture is etiquette. If you don't know the etiquette, somebody can identify that you're either part of the culture or not based on the nuances and behavior that you're taught, that then allowed you to be identified with that culture, that society, or that class of people. And I realized that our people do not know kingdom etiquette. And because we don't have a culture, which is our immune system that protects us from external entities that seek to undermine and destroy the legacy and inheritance that has been passed down to us by our ancestors and has been guided by the Most High, we do not know kingdom etiquette. So when we read the New Testament, we see it through Christianity's eyes, which is the outside looking in instead of the inside looking out, because we have not been groomed in the etiquette.
Wow.
So when I realized that, I preached my first message for Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and it was, what is the gospel of the kingdom, right? And I realized after I did that, you know, I had maybe about 7, 8 people that showed up when I did it. I actually did it in the community center or the club room in the apartment complex that I lived in out here in Atlanta. It was pretty big, but I only had 7 people showed up, right? And I said, well, maybe people are not interested in this at all, because prior I would go preach at places that had hundreds of people, right? Nobody cared about this thing, the gospel of the kingdom. So I preached it, and then after that, I said to myself, you know what? I need to give this message to the people it's for. And I saw who Yeshua was preaching it to. Let me preach it and direct it to my people. And when I started doing that, the Most High started showing me favor and said, this is the direction I want you to go. So that started in 2014 when I started my ministry. And that's pretty much a summary of my history. Bring up some scriptures, sis?
Absolutely.
Okay. If you don't mind, sis, can you go to Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1?
Okay, let's see here. I'm going to share a screen real quick. Let's see here. Deuteronomy
30 verse 1. Chapter 30 verse 1.
30. All right, I'm going to use KJV. All right, can y'all see that there? I'm going to go ahead and enlarge it and make it a little bigger. Everybody see that good?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect.
All right, so it says, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. That's interesting. Which I have set before thee. Check this out. And you call them to mind in the land of Egypt. In the land of Egypt, no. In the land of Israel, no. In Mesopotamia, no. In all the nations where the Lord your God has driven you. Now we got to slow down for a second. It says that, and it shall come to pass when these things are come upon you, what? The blessing and the curse, which is based on obedience to the statutes, laws, and commandments, or disobedience to the statutes, laws, and commandments. It says, which I have set before you, and you shall call them to mind. Wake up and say, wow, wait, hold on. Something's going on. When? When you are driven amongst the nation, when you're scattered. So there's an expectation that we ought to call to mind these things when we are scattered. It says, and you shall return to the Yohewaphe, or Lord your God, or your power, and shall what? Obey his voice. Now, sometimes people only know what was said and not what's being said. So sometimes people know what's said, but they don't know what's being said, or what the Spirit is saying. Sometimes we stuck in the past tense. We don't even know the present tense in order to get to the future tense, because a voice is something that is constant. It didn't stop when that book closed. That voice is continuously speaking right now, but are we listening? That's why Yeshua said, he that have an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying. Yep. It says, you shall obey his voice according to all, not some, not part, not when you feel like it, not on the weekends, not on the Sabbath, all that I command thee this day, you and your children, with what? With all thine heart and with all thy soul. That's important. That means, you know, Christianity, there was a song you used to like called I'm Sold Out. My mind is made up. I was like, hold on. That song is talking about Israel committing themselves to be a set apart people. So we're giving up everything to the Most High with all your heart. That means there's no other room left for nothing else. All your soul, there's no other room left for nothing else. But Yeshua did say in Mark chapter 12, the two greatest commandments is to love the Lord thy God with all thy might, all thy whole, and all thy strength. And all he was doing was quoting Deuteronomy chapter 6. Nothing new, right? But then he said the second is like this first, to love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Wait, hold on. And the Most High is telling me to love him with all my heart and with all my soul. How in the world can I love my neighbor? And then I realized that when you're loving Yah with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, you are emptying yourself to him. So as an empty vessel, he can pour into you, and the overflow touches your neighbor. Okay, somebody, I didn't mean to preach in here. I'm just sharing some information. But what I'm simply saying is we have to keep that lamp going. In the Maccabees period, after they were successful and they had the menorah, they were running out of oil, right? But they prayed, and because the Most High wanted to show that he is a power that still lives. He is the living power, not the dead. He said, I'm going to do this short miracle so my people can know that I have not yet put their flame out. Okay, so it says that then Yod-Heh-Wav, your power will turn your captivity, and have what? Mercy. You'll see that word mercy is there too. Mercy, and sometimes compassion upon you. So wait, in Christianity, we ask for mercy all the time. Yeah, God's got mercy. Well, hold on. The mercy comes through obedience to what? It says it in the top, to all the things that I have commanded you. Because the mercy is now that you've been driven in a land of your exile, you do not know your original language, you don't know your culture, the customs and manners, your purpose, you have no compass to navigate this thing called life, that when you are awoken, my mercy, my compassion, because you have a desire desire and knowing the history to turn back to him, so much so that you want to embellish and leave an indelible mark in your children to do the same, that now he has compassion on that effort. And with that, it says that he promises to return and gather us from all the nations in which he has driven us. That is a very powerful thing, because it did not stop when we were scattered. The expectation is no matter where we are at, that he wants us to return or to shuba back unto him. And I realized that the only way that we can be fully prepped is to understand what are the cultural norms. What is this etiquette? Let me read this definition for etiquette real quick so people can hear it. Etiquette is the set of conventional rules of personal behavior in polite society, usually in the form of an ethical code that delineates the expected and accepted social behaviors that accord with the conventions and norms observed by a society, a social class, or a social group. So what does that mean, Divine? You're talking too much, my brother. Break it down. The reason why we have no power is because we do not understand the conventional rules of personal behavior and the form of an ethical code that delineates or that separates or outlines the expected and accepted social behaviors that accord with the conventions and norms observed by the kingdom. So when you don't have that, or you're out of touch for that, how can you dare say you about to meet him and have that banquet in Revelation chapter 19? You don't even know how to lift the fork up. You don't even know how to lift the brother in your sister. You don't know how to tuck that napkin in. You don't know how to. So the accepted and expected. This is why Black people can't get nowhere, because we don't have this ingrained anywhere. But the scriptures are designed to restore us back to that ethical code of the expected and so accepted social behaviors. America is the Wild Wild West all over again. It's a free-for-all. It's full of liberalism. You can do whatever thou wilt, for that shall be the whole of the law. Alias the crowd. That is the character of the society in which we live. However, etiquette delineates, separates. It makes you set apart, because the things that you do are the accepted and expected norms based on an ethical code that has come down from the supernatural in order to redeem the dead people and the valley of dry bones, and to put the spirit back into them, to sow the flesh, the muscle, the tissue back, so that we could be a people with mobility and power and structure and order, so that way when he comes back, we will be prepared to meet him. We have to be
Well, I have one word, and it is hallelujah. Okay, that was so powerful what you said. I mean, I'm seeing in my mind a people just as you described. We are, unaware, like children, what the rules of the house are. We're making mess everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sis. Wait, sis. You gotta say that again, sis. Say that again.
We're like children that just don't understand the rules of the house. We're making mess everywhere. And we think that the Most High is going to suffer with that forever. And he won't. Because now that those of us who are here, have an understanding of who we are responsible for what we know. And so it is important and it's imperative that we begin the process of maturity. Essentially, when he said, be ye perfect, he was talking about being fully mature. But how can you be fully mature if you don't understand the rules to maturity? If you don't understand how to grow up, if you don't understand how to make up your bed properly, you think, oh, I just threw on the blanket and that's acceptable. No, it is not. You've got to be able to crease that sheet underneath it so that it's not lumpy. So we have to get to a place and a point where we have the willingness, and there's a lot of us that do, praise Yah for the Ruach giving it to us, a willingness to understand who he is on a deeper level and what he requires of us. And I think that what many of us don't understand is that the more that we have a desire to know who he is, the more he will entrust us with the understanding of how to worship him, with the understanding of how, you understand, the understanding of what this means. Because, when you said it's the expectation of the Most High Yah, according to his word, that even in the scattering, that we still obeyed him. And I believe that we're seeing the shaking and the quaking now, because there is a nation that is rising up and saying, I will serve the Most High Yah with all my heart, my mind, my soul, and my strength. And even if the circumstances around me are trying to stop me from being obedient to him, I will shut out the voice of the enemy and I will listen to the voice of my Father, because I will be that child that has an ear to hear what the Spirit is saying. So
My God.
I just
Go ahead.
love it.
Go
No,
ahead.
no, you go ahead, bro. You go ahead. You on fire. I'm just
So
here to listen.
yeah, that's wonderful. And to understand that and put it in proper context is, how do you manifest that in reality? That's a form of what's called actuality. How to make the things that are imagined real or tangible in the real world, right? So a lot of these things in the text about statutes, laws, commandments, stuff like that, it sounds good, but how do you put it in a way where it becomes an ingrained culture that protects you from compromise? See, the reason why a lot of people compromise is because we don't have. But if we take the things that we learn from the statutes, laws, commandments, and we set up our community to reflect that, and we say, listen, we're going to have everything we need in-house, we can then slowly detether from the welfare state that only has its power based on us being a little child coming to mommy and daddy and saying, I'm hungry, please feed me. And the worst thing that the parents hear from that child is a tantrum. What's the child going to do? The child can't do nothing. They got to wait on me to feed them, or me to clothe them, and me to give them the toys to play. But guess what happens? When things happen on the world scale, they, meaning that the adults are having a discussion, they take the child and they put them in the room. Say, all right, this is for the adults now. Y'all go to bed. And that's what they've been doing. They've been putting us to sleep because they do not want us to know what is really going on. And what is really going on is that there's a conspiracy against the children of Yah. It's a conspiracy. But as long as we are dependent upon them, we will continue to compromise the very fabric and nature of who we are for the sake of small crumbs off of the enemy's table, not the master's table, off the enemy's table. And so much so that when somebody is sent from the master's house, we look at them as strange and say, well, why do I have to go do that? I'm already getting these crumbs over here. And the problem is that because we've been so ingrained with this Stockholm syndrome of loving our oppressor for so many years, because guess what? A lot of the slaves that survived were the ones that had to show love for the master. It has become an embedded epigenetic behavior that we utilize for survival. The Most High says right now, you are not to survive. You are now to thrive, because in this age of awakening of 2021, you are only a slave by choice, because he is here to give us the freedom and liberty that we need to reconstruct and rebuild our communities and create an ecosystem of support. So that way our brothers and sisters can come together, rely on each other, so they don't have to put their hand out all the time and have to compromise just to get a crumb off the enemy's table. The master said, but now I'm giving you a full course meal. Sis, get Acts chapter 4, verse 32, if you don't mind.
Okay, Acts, let's see, chapter 4, verse 32. Let's pull it up. Okay. Here we go. Would you like me to read, or would you like to?
Yes, sis, if you can read.
Okay. And the multitude of them that believed were of one heart and of one soul. Neither said any of them that aught of the things which he possessed was his own, but they had all things in common.
Now, slow down, sis. Now, if we had this etiquette in the Black community, think about that, where everybody is on one accord, because nothing that anybody owns was their own. It was anybody can use it. Anybody can utilize it. So, and we're going to see how they were able to get to that point. But they had all things in common. Go to verse 33, sis.
And with great power gave the apostles witness of the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and great grace was upon them all.
Now stop there. In this section, when you go to 34, you're going to see that verse 33 is a parenthetical. It is a pause to insert some additional information that is a consequence of what we're seeing in the previous verse and the preceding verse. Keep this in mind. in order to get this great power, there's something that's missing. And we're about to see what it is. Go ahead to the next verse, sis, if you don't mind.
Neither was there any among them that lacked. For as many, that's deep.
That's it.
For as many as were possessors of lands or houses sold them, and brought the prices of the things that were sold, and laid them down at the apostles' feet. And distribution was made unto every man according as he had need.
Sis, you're not reading that right. They gave it to the apostles, and apostles bought them a mansion. They bought them a chariot with some shiny rims on it and 2 horses that seats 2 people. All right, sis, you're not reading it right, sis.
Let me tell you. I used to have a pastor that I love him. He was such an amazing guy. But I'm telling you, at verse 35, he would stop right there and laid them down at the apostles' feet. I'm like, finish the rest of the verse.
All right, so now we're going to go to, and then it says, and distribution was made unto every man according to as he had his wants, his desires, his lusts, as he had need. The only way that this system can survive is to keep us in a perpetual state of poverty, economically, spiritually, mentally, and physically. That's deep. That's the weapon that has been utilized to keep us in a compromised condition and dependent upon this world system and the God of this world who oversees this system, right? But if we were to take the things that we do have and we were to distribute it evenly so that everybody has all things in common. Now, sis, on my show last night, I had a good brother on there. He was a pastor. And I started reading this to him because, you know, he subscribed to tithes and everything. And I said to him, I said, well, let me tell you what solution Christianity could do if they really believed in providing a solution. Instead of building 100 churches and 1 black community, and there's still poverty, there's still violence, there's still crime, there's still prostitution. All these stuff are happening, but we got all these churches on these corners. But I said to him this, and I read it to him, and I said, Pastor, would you do this? He said, no. I said, Pastor, would you do that? He said, no. And then he said, because that was at that time. That was hilarious. You gotta go back and see it. I was dying. I was like, wow. I said, everything that was written in this book was at that time. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? But it says, and distribution was made unto every man according to as he had need. One indicator of the poverty of the people is the music. I think you missed that. Let me go show you something, sis. Let's get Deuteronomy. Hold on. Let me bring up another scripture. Let me find this scripture. I want to bring this home. All right.
All right. Y'all, this is definitely meaty. I love this so much because, you know, I think it was who was it? It was a celebrity recently. I don't know if it was a comedian. And it wasn't recent, but they just brought it up about how the system of capitalism is really the system of white supremacy. Because if you think about it, it's no different than the Indian caste system of the Brahmin on top and the untouchables at the bottom. And the ones at the bottom are us. Okay, we have to stay on the bottom in order for them to remain on top. And yet we're told, okay, you can do this and you can do that in a capitalistic society. But it's one that is based off of Darwinism, which is survival of the fittest. You know, this is not about caring for those in need. And we need to think it. And I'm not saying, I definitely am not an advocate of socialism or communism, because that's not what's being advocated here. This is a free will offering that the people of Yah are supposed to be deposited with, so that we see the needs of our brothers and sisters and hold them up higher than our own so-called wants. All
right, so check it out, sis. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 31.
Deuteronomy chapter 31. Okay.
And again, the theme is, where do we go from here, right? So 31, is scroll down to verse 17.
All right. Okay, so then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, are not these evils come upon us, because our God is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day for all the evils which they shall have wrought, and that they are turned unto other gods.
Key thing is when there's evil, when we do evil, he hides his face. Face is representative of a relationship, right? But check this out. Read verse 19, sis.
Now therefore write ye this song for you, and
Oh,
teach
wait.
it.
Right, what? Right, say that
Write
again.
ye
Right,
this song for you,
keep going.
and teach it the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel.
Let's slow down 1 second. So we understand at some point when David was anointed to be the future king and Saul was still the king, in the presence of Saul, David was there and all the attention was on David, right? Mostly because it was said David was handsome and, he was very brave even for a younger man at the time, right? And then when a spirit came upon, an evil spirit from the Most High came upon Saul, what did David do? He played the harp.
Yes.
And the spirit went away. Now, why am I saying this? Keep this in mind. Check it out. When there's evil, the Most High hides his face. Right now, the reason why we see the depraved state of our people is because Yah is hiding his face from us. However, check this out. However, in the scriptures, this is the time capsule that he has given us to crack it open, that in this day and time we will wake. But because we've taken the thing that he has given us, or told Moses to give to us, which is writing a song, so that way we will have it in our mouths and it will be a witness against the actions that we do. We see the depraved state of our people back in the early 80s, right? Late 70s, going into the 90s, right? Early 90s. Hip hop was about liberation. Hip hop was about the betterment of the people, of the community, and we can't have no pushers in the community. And all of that was power. And then what it did, it rose the people up to do something. But now the game has changed because the powers that be saw, hold on, they waking up. And we understand based on prophecy that a song can be a witness for or against. Oh, come on. So therefore, being that the song is a witness against the evils of this nation that they had to defend against, they said, look, we got to put a different song in their mouth. And it cannot be anything about your identity, who you are, your culture, the societal ills. We got to give them something that is destructive, that is depraved, and something that's going to remove them from the face of Yah. And he will never think twice about looking upon his people. But Yah is merciful and compassionate, that there are still those that seek him. And the seekers that seek him, even in the midst of error, they shall find him. And he says here, when I have brought them out of the land, which I have sworn to their fathers, that flow with milk and honey, and they shall have eaten and filled themselves and waxen fat, that they will turn unto other powers, other idols, other distractions, and serve them and provoke me and break my covenant. The songs that we listen today, it causes us to break the covenant with Yah. And Christianity reinforces that by saying you don't need it anymore. Okay, I think y'all are not seeing it. So the form of religion they give us and the form of culture they give us are both as a witness. So that way, when we sing it and put it in our mouth and our hearts and our souls, we are testifying of the wicked, depraved state and the evilness that we are doing amongst each other, whether that is stealing each other's girl, if you listen to R&B, whether that's shooting and killing each other and rap music, whether that's taking popping perks and Molly and all of that. All of these things are defilement of the body, as a destruction of the etiquette, moral codes. It is something where you cannot see the expected end of these people, but nothing but death and destruction. And therefore the enemy knows through the tune of the music, I can get them to away from the covenant. And Christianity is going to reinforce that by saying you no longer need the law. You no longer need that Old Testament. All you need to do is do what thou wilt. And the Most High understood if a song was just in their mouth as a witness of the things that I've done for their forefathers, and to understand that the blessings are encapsulated inside that song, then liberation will come. If they will turn to me with their children and keep these statutes, laws, and commandments, to have cultural mandates to establish an etiquette no matter where they are at, I will hear from what's going on and do what's right underneath that Bible you have up there. Heal the land, because the Most High has given us dominion, provided we are walking in the covenant, because one of the things of the covenant is prosperity, length of life, and dominion over anything that's in your path. I think people are missing that. I didn't come here to preach. I'm sorry, Sister Ashanda. I just simply want people to understand.
Can you read the screen? Well, how about that one right there? I hope you got that fire extinguisher handy there, because you need it. Oh man, this is it. This is it. I'm telling you, you know, and this is one of the reasons why it broke my heart when G. Craig Lewis he responded the way he did to the awakening, because I'm going to tell you, everything you said there was so on point. When I first became born again, one of the first things that the Most High led me to was the truth behind hip hop and the spiritual nature behind music. And when I had an understanding that Lucifer was this cherub that was the anointed one that covereth, he brought in the praises of the Most High, and how he's used music to come against us. This is before I knew who we were as Israel, Judah, the praisers, all of that. But to understand what it's done to our people, oh man, it just set a firestorm in me. I cut out all secular music from way back then, because I said, no, this music really has destroyed our community. But to hear how you marry that with who we are as a people today, it's like, okay, I got half the story. Now I got the other half. The other half is that the Most High allowed that sound of negativity to be a witness against us because of our refusal to obey him. And so it's the sound. Oh, Judah. Oh, I hope y'all feeling this. Okay. It is the cry, the sound of Judah that the Most High is saying, you better get your heart right. You better get this sound right. Because when he comes back, what did he say, Brother Ron? It will be with a sound.
That's
trumpets.
It.
Oh, all
the
right.
problem is that we listening to so much white noise, we can't even tune into the right frequency. That's the problem. We're allowing everything else to make a sound and to stir us up in our life. But when those trumpets sound, we are not going to be too spiritually discerned to even understand what is about to take place, because people are still asleep after seeing all the events that has transpired over the past 10 years. They can't even tell that there are trumpets that are sounding and things that are being let loose in this earth. And that if we do not cleave back unto the Most High, his voice, his word, and what he left behind that Yeshua exemplified, there's no way that we could be prepared to receive the kingdom or the kingdom to receive us. He says, touch not the unclean thing and I will receive you. We touch every and anything that is unclean because it gives us a form of comfort, because we was not taught otherwise. But yet Yah says in these last days, when you crack open that book and you have an earnest to seek me without all the white noise, I will give you the correct frequency. And when you tune in, you'll get the message, and you're going to wake up to who you are, and you'll understand the system that is here is not designed to help you. It is designed to destroy you and allow you to break my covenant with pride. I mean, people break the Most High's covenant with pride, but if we decide to come back and ensure that all of our brothers and sisters have everything in common, all needs are met, you eliminate jealousy, you eliminate envy, you eliminate the need of somebody trying to steal somebody else's wife or girlfriend. You have the need of somebody trying to rob you or hit you over the head or beat you up, because nobody will have anything other than anybody else, and therefore poverty will no longer be a distraction to deter us away from coming back into the covenant with the Most High Yah. But we have to hear the song. And one thing I'll say this, if you study academically the text, you'll see that one of the earliest parts of the scriptures is, go to Exodus 15, sis. I'll let you get Exodus 15 real quick. Is the song. The songs, the blessings, right? The ironic blessings, the songs, the legal code, and the narrative is what pulled everything together, but that developed later. But that was in a cultural mindset of the people with the songs, because a song is something that's easy to remember. If I sing a song to you and I read you a bedtime story, you're probably going to know the song better than you would the bedtime story, unless the bedtime story has a tune to it and you're singing it to the child. But the song does something. They done a study, I wish I had the paper with me, on music and music's influence on people of color. It's deep. I need to send this to you. Says you got to look at this to say that it resonates us with us so much, because in our natural environment, the sound was the thing that gave us the vibration of life and allowed us to tune into the divine. But now the enemy understands that, and the divine he wants you to tune into is not the source of life, the source of truth, but it's the source of deceit, wickedness, and allowing you to fulfill any lustly pleasure that you want. Yah said it's not time for that sound anymore, because when those trumpets sound and those bowls are poured, you better be prepared. And if you are too tethered to the society that you are compromising in your walk, I will not receive you, because you've touched every unclean thing and thought it was going to bring you some kind of wholeness. Sis, please read Exodus chapter 15 and verse 1, because people need to understand the power that's in the song that Yah has given his people when we remember his acts and how great and wonderful he is, and that he is worthy for us to give us our all. Everything that we have, we give to him. Read Exodus chapter 15, verse 1, sis, if you don't mind.
Not at all. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea.
Go ahead.
The Lord is my strength and
what?
song.
Say that again. Say that again.
The Lord is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him an habitation.
Wait, sis. You gotta slow down, sis. What do you mean I will prepare him an habitation? What does that mean? The scripture says that he dwells in the what?
He dwells in the temple. He dwells in the secret place of the Most High. And the temple is us, our bodies.
And he also dwells in the praises. The praises is the song that we sing unto him. That is how you create a habitation for him to show up and dine with you. A lot of times we are not prepared for him to show up because we're not singing his song. Let me say that again. Sometimes we know how to serenade people of the world. We say, oh, I know this girl's song. I know this guy's song. And you sing their song. And when you're in the club, you hear that song. That song, what does it do? It gets you to rise up. It stirs you up. But are we singing his song that we create a habitation so great that Yah has to come off the throne and come and sit there and be with you in your presence? Are we doing that right now? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
You just talk, all right? So
you just talking. I got you. And you know, I just heard that New York accent hard, right? I'm just talking. All right, he is my God, and I will prepare him a habitation. My Father's God, and I will exalt him.
You can stop right there, sis. And then the rest goes on the victory of Yah. And this is wonderful. But the problem is our people have lost the understanding of who the Most High is, that he is a God of victory, a power that is like none other. Nothing can be compared unto him. But we are not hearing his voice. We are not taking on his spirit, and we don't even know his son because of all of the chatter, the white noise, the backbiting, the stirring up, because the moment that we get any ounce of progress, they give us a distraction. Last year, the coronavirus situation happened, and then we had several of our brothers and sisters that was killed from police brutality. You see all the marching in the street, and then the agent provocateurs came and did the rioting and looting, but brothers and sisters continue to march. After a while, they kept throwing distractions here, throwing distractions there. One thing I realized that the reason why the people rose up, sis, is because there was a lack of white noise, which means nobody couldn't go nowhere. You couldn't go to the club. You couldn't go to the bar. You couldn't go to your favorite sporting event. You can't go here. You can go there. You can't even go to work, some people. You was confined to the house. And now when you see on the screen the brutality that is being committed at the hands of those in power against the powerless, you are forced to watch the demons or the ghosts that still is pervasive in the society, because white supremacy is still prevalent, and people were forced to see this thing because they could not be distracted by anything else. People missing that. So the Most High sat us down to look at what's going on, to say, you see, these are the consequences of your ancestors' actions. And if you turn to me in this day and age, I will raise up a people that want true liberation from the Ruach by keeping the cultural mandates and their captivity and understanding the presence of my son. And I will sup and dine with him. And after we have that coveted meal and he knows who I am, guess what? He doesn't matter what comes his way. He's going to stand on what they say is your square, and he's going to look the enemy in the eye. And after he's done all he can to stand, he's going to continue to stand. Do we have that heart today? Is that our lab in the Hebrew, our heart today that we have, that we're going to continue to know that the things that are going on around us in our communities, because our people have been disconnected from their God. They are not singing his song. They're not stirring him up so he can come through and he can raise us up as a people. We must have his song in our mouth so that when we sing it, we touch his heart and he has to come down and say, wait a second, was that my song? You know what I'm saying? Oh, I gotta go stir something up for a second.
That's my jam right there.
They're worshiping me. They're keeping the things I commanded them to do. They're being obedient. That's his song. And when you sing his song, he will show up and he will show out. Are you prepared for that? Because the kingdom is on its way. Are you ready? Are you prepared? And with that, sis, we have to create our own self-sustainable resources to ensure that when people wake up in the truth, they can come to the community. We have an ecosystem of support and say, hey, you don't have to compromise to get this. You don't have to compromise to get that, because if we have all things in common, the distractions go away. All of this backbiting and arguing and debating on doctrine and this, all that goes away when all of your secular needs are met, because you are at a state of peace. People are trying to come on one accord when there's no peace. That cannot happen. If shalom is not living within your spirit and shalom is not going where you stand, sis, get Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 7. We're going to bring the scriptures out with this.
All right, Jeremiah 29, verse 7. Yes, let's do this.
The reason why our cities are in disarray is because those who wake up don't do nothing. Sis, read verse 7 when you get it.
All right, let me pull this up real quick. I'm going to go to my YouTube application real quick.
No problem. Take your time.
Jeremiah, what is it again?
Chapter 29 and verse 7.
Chapter 29, okay. Yeah, what you're saying is so powerful. I'm telling you, when we stopped, we didn't allow our children to grow up listening to that music. Our children actually trained orchestral musicians. My son's a cellist, the other one's a violinist.
Wow,
and I'm telling you, the impact of not allowing our children to listen to the music that we knew was poison to their spirit meant that our children had a whole different way of thinking about life, even though we were boxed into the same neighborhoods before we moved. The way they thought. Their mindset was totally different. They were unified. Even though they're kids, okay, they're going to fight. But at the same time, they had a united front when it came to the family and making sure that everybody in our family was taken care of. And this was the children.
And that's the thing, sis. It's the village mentality. We lost that.
Yeah.
The village mentality is very simple. Check it out. So the issue with the youth is the disregard for their elders. And there was a guy. And if y'all want the video, I can post a video for you, but I'm keeping it anonymous. It was a guy who was a Christian missionary, Catholic Christian missionary, and he was going to the Amazon to go preach the gospel to a indigenous tribe, because he said one of the tactics he was taught was to make them feel lost so you can give them something to find. That's deep. So he went there amongst his community and he was trying to preach the Catholic Jesus to them, and the people did not want it. They did not accept it, right? But check it out. He was observing the culture of the people, and he saw that the elderly, there was some elderly within the community that could not fend for themselves, that could not even eat for themselves. So they protected them, and they also hunted and fed them, so much so that when they even put the food in the mouth, they helped the elders chew. He looked at this and said, man, why are you caring for these elders so much when they can't do nothing to contribute to the rest of the tribe? And they said to him very simply, because when I was a child, I was vulnerable. I was a baby. I was unprotected. I was unclothed. And this elder held me. This my mother, she gave me breast milk. All right. This elder over here fed me food, taught me how to walk after I was crawling. They did all the things for me when I was vulnerable. And now my obligation is to return the favor to them. Do we have that same mindset and appreciation for our elders, because if the youth does, then the elders has so much knowledge and position where they can actually point in the right direction and show them where to go. But first, before we can get that, we must restore the peace. Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 7 says what, sis?
And seek the peace of the city, whither I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto the Lord for it, for in the peace thereof shall ye have peace.
All right, so now scroll up, sis. Let's read the first verse so we can understand the context. All right, you can read that right there, sis. First verse.
Now these are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem unto the residue of the elders which were carried away captives, and to the priest, and to the prophets, and to all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon.
So now we see something very unique. This is a letter that Jeremiah is writing from Jerusalem to the captives in Babylon to let them know what they are to do. Go to verse 5, sis.
Build ye houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens. Huh?
No, I said, go ahead.
Okay. And eat the fruit of them.
Okay, go ahead. Verse 6.
Take ye wives and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased there and not diminished.
So that you build your houses and live in them, plant gardens and eat from them. This is self-sustainability. This is being able to create your own resources so that you can benefit directly from them and not have to compromise from some morsels off the plate of the oppressive system. So they were taught, build your own houses and live in them. You don't got to live in those. Build your own house, live in them. Plant your own gardens and eat. There's your shelter, there's your food. Take your wives and make sons and daughters. Take wives for your son and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear children. Keep the seed going so that they may increase there and not decrease, because one of the things that was promised to Israel is that you're going to continue to increase. And we saw every time we increase, they have fear. Why? Because
ain't that the truth?
All of these young soldiers growing up, and if at any given time they decide to say, nope, I don't want what you're giving me anymore, we're going to have a problem. That unpaid bill of all the atrocities and things we've done to them, it's going to be calling for us to pay. So it says here, and seek the shalom of the city where I caused you to be carried away captive. Are we seeking the peace of the city in which we live? He says, and intercede, that's that word for prayer there, to the Most High for it, for in the peace of it, you shall have peace. The reason why we don't have peace is because Israelites are not getting out there and seeking the peace of the city. We are obligated in our captivity. We have been given things to do while we await our redemption. And that is not to sit down and say, okay, we're going to wait for Jesus to come. And anytime now, Lord, come get me out of here, Lord. Anytime. He says, no, build your houses, live in them, plant your gardens, eat from them, get your children together amongst themselves. Because guess what? If they go and keep interacting with secular children, guess what? They're going to be compromised at some point or another. We have to keep our children together to learn what is normal and what is not normal. There's nothing so we can see the divine line of that which is clean and unclean, that which is holy and unholy. What is the divine line in society? There is none, because there's no moral code or no standard from Yah to discern what is good and what is bad. In Hebrew, the word for good is tov, and the word for bad is ra. Well, people may think that's polar opposites, and I'm thinking about dualism. No. It's very simple and indigenous. It simply means good is that which is functional, and bad is that which is dysfunctional. Let me say it again. Good is that which is functional, and bad that which is dysfunctional. This society has taught us to do bad because we are learning what is dysfunctional. So when we go to the Most High, we don't even know how to function properly. That's the problem. So now we have a situation that if we stay active and we continue to seek the peace of the city, being that you are a light unto the Gentiles, then you intercede on its behalf, because some of y'all are chanting down Babylon, but you're still connected to the system. Are you really ready for the Most High to judge this place? If so, where's your Goshen? Because Goshen was the only place in Mizraim that was untouched while the place was being judged. Where's our Goshen? If you don't have your Goshen, or you're not building it, you ain't ready to chant down Babylon. That's not going to happen. So he said, in the peace of the city, the shalom, you will have peace. And it's only through that peace that we are able to exude and have others take it and become contagious and be infected by it, that is virulent, that we can have the breeding ground for the spirit to come and lay its seed. Come on, somebody. We got to listen and understand that we have to change the atmosphere and the environment in order to get our people to get into this culture. They must have an ecosystem of support to say, look, I see you trying to get wealth from the wicked. However, you can get wealth being with the righteous, because the scriptures say, just quote the scriptures to them, that the wealth of the wicked will laid up for the righteous.
For the righteous.
A husband. Guess what? I'm going to show you how to walk in righteousness. And in keeping these commandments, one of the blessings is that you be the head and not the tail. I used to learn that in church all the time. The pastor will open up to Deuteronomy chapter 28, read verses 1 to 15, while they're collecting tithes. But guess what? I went back and read that, and it says, wait, to those who keep my statutes, my laws, my commandments. Wait. This is going to a particular people. This ain't just going to anybody. And it's only if you obey his word. Anytime you offer something to somebody or tell somebody not to do something, always have an alternative. Because if you don't have that alternative, at some point or another, when that alternative runs low or when there's a gap, they will return back to which is familiar. Sis, get John chapter 21, and I'm going to leave you alone after this. I'm sorry, sis. I know.
Oh boy, we over here getting full. I already ate my dinner. I guess I don't need a midnight snack tonight because I'm getting full. John chapter 21. What verse we're reading at?
So we're gonna start at verse 1.
Verse 1. All right.
We're from verse 1 to verse 3.
Okay. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias, and on this wise showed he himself.
The key thing says after these things, so everything prior, right? It says after those things, he showed himself again. Well, why did he have to show himself again? Check this out. It says, read verse 2 and 3.
There were together Simon Peter and Thomas, called Didymus, and Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, and the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other of his disciples. Simon Peter saith unto them, I go a fishing.
Wait. What?
I go a fishing.
Wait a second. Wait, isn't this the one who dropped his net when Yeshua says, come follow me, I will make you fishers of men? He went back to fishing. Yeah, sis. Keep going.
They say unto him, we also go with thee. They went forth and entered into a ship immediately. And that night they caught nothing.
Slow down, sis. So now the key thing is sometimes you may have that experience. We may have that awakening. Some of y'all may be listening to this right now. I want to keep y'all encouraged because you may have found yourself not getting anything because you thought you had something. The Most High, life's troubles and cares have taken you away, and now you are returning to that which is familiar. But I'm here to tell you, even if you feel confident in that which is familiar, it will not produce anything until you have the Most High's presence show back up in your life. Let me say it again. The Most High is willing to deal with his children because Yeshua gave the example. When they went here to go back to fishing, even after he showed himself unto them, he had to do it again, which goes to show his unfailing mercy and his compassion that Yah was able to use Yeshua as an example that we are to do with each other when brothers and sisters, they wear off and they don't know where to start. We have to be that source. It says, but when the morning now come, Yeshua stood on the shore, but the disciples did not even know it was him. They had returned to a mindset of going back to that which is familiar because that which is familiar became their comfort zone. Come on. And it says, and Yeshua said to them, children, listen, before he was talking about them as men, now he's calling them children because he has to retrain them again. It says, have ye any meat? They answered and said, no. He said, well, then cast the net on the other side and you shall find it. And guess what? Even having that experience with Yeshua, they still didn't trust him. They was not there yet because things had happened in their life that had brought them back to their comfort zone. And even though their comfort zone was not producing anything because it was familiar, it was the thing that they had become accustomed to. And it was the thing that gave them some form of relief that now they can even recognize when the supernatural is showing up. I want you to understand, when you're hearing this right now, the things me and Sister Ashanda are saying is that supernatural voice to awaken the dead. There's too many of us that are sleepwalking out there. Sometimes you wake somebody up, their eyes still closed, and they're walking to go somewhere else. We have to take our brothers and sisters and speak life unto them, like Ezekiel was told to the valley of the dry bones. He didn't have to go and grab the bones. He didn't have to go put them together. All he did was speak to the bones, and the Spirit did the rest. So we have to understand this. This is important when we want to talk about mercy. He didn't correct them. But what he did was he met them where they were at, and he showed them something that was profitable to lead them back to being taught again. This is how we have to deal with our brothers and sisters. Sis, scroll down even further. I want to get to this last point, and I want to leave it alone. This is all about kingdom etiquette. This is all about understanding the culture and being able to surround yourself with an ecosystem of support so you can be fully set apart. You can have your own Goshen. You don't have to compromise, and you can hear the clear frequency of the voice of Yah. It says here in verse 15, so when they had dined, Yeshua said to Simon Peter, Simon Bar-Jonah, lovest me more than these? And he said unto them, yes, you know I love you. He saith unto him, feed my lambs. He saith to him again the second time, Simon Bar-Jonah, lovest thou me? He said unto him, yeah, Lord, thou knowest I love thee. He saith unto them, feed my sheep. Then he said to him a third time, Simon Bar-Jonah, lovest you me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, you know all things. You know I love you. Yeshua said to him, feed my sheep. Now let me show you something real quick before we go to verse 18 and 19, and I'm done. Here's the problem. Sometimes the reason why we can't reach people because we ain't speaking their language. That's the purpose of this. I'm going to show you. What are you talking about? Sometimes you may say one thing, somebody may say something else. This is why I teach people the nuances of the language that is hidden underneath the English translation. If you was to go back to the original Greek and you was to read the word that Yeshua used for love and the word that Simon used for love, they're two different things. Come on now. What are you talking about? Yeshua was talking about the agapao love, and Peter was talking about the philos love. Well, what you mean? What are you talking about? What is the difference? The agapao love is the love that is selfless and unselfish, and it's the love that depends on Yah to move and lead you. Philos is the love that only depends on your brother, and when he is no longer there, guess what? You ain't got no direction where to go. Let me say that again. Yeshua was trying to get him to see that the agapao love, if you had it, you would continue fishing men. But because you only had a philos love of me, because he told Peter at one point in the past, he said to Peter, get behind me, Satan, because he told Peter, I have to go and be killed in order for me to rise again. And Peter said, no, I don't. We're not going to let that happen to you. He said, get behind me, because Peter was only thinking about the natural man's sustainability, and he didn't realize you needed the spiritual cleansing before you can accept the kingdom. So now we have a situation where the language is being misconstrued because one person is using one word, somebody's using something else. We have to learn to speak to our brothers and sisters when they're in their lowly state. Meet them where they're at, speak the language they can understand, and you will save a soul. Come on now. And now when we continue to read, it says, verily I say to you, when you was young, you girded yourself and walkest where you would have. But when you are old, you stretch forth thy hands, and another will gird thee and carry you where you whether not. This he spake, signifying by what death he shall glorify, which means he's saying when you're young, you do what you want. But when you get old, somebody's going to lead you to someplace you don't want to go. What is that saying? That means when you're young now, you ain't thinking about this fleshly love. But when you get old and you get wise, Peter, and we see that in Peter's epistles, you'll get to the point where none of that matters anymore. All that matters is the love of the Most High. That's it. That is what I'll do. That is what I will continue to yearn for. That's what I will continue to thirst after, so I can get that river of righteousness. I can get that spirit that flows out of my belly. So when people see my life, they ain't got to open up the book at all. They know this is a child of Yah. Let's tread carefully, because this is a living diplomat on this soil. And if we insult or do anything to harm this diplomat, guess what? Sure enough, wrath shall fall upon us. But we are not even together enough so that people can see the love of Yah amongst us and fear him. Come on now. We have to get to fear Yah by walking uprightly and being righteousness, because righteousness is the light that gets away the darkness. Come on, somebody. So when you understand this and you have this in your nefesh, in your soul, the center of who you are, now you will shift from just simply going after something to pursuing and seeking it. And if you are not doing that in this day and age right now, it is going to be impossible when the time to come for you to acknowledge that trumpet and be able to say, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. And that's it, sis. I'm done.
Well, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna just tell you up front because you know I keep it 100. I wasn't prepared for all of this right here. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what I was thinking. Right? I'm over here like, woo, boy. Let me tell you something. What you just said there was so powerful because essentially what you're talking about is the heart of a steward. You're talking about this word I like to say serve, and I have an acronym for serve. Serving everyone requires vision extended, meaning you got to be able to see beyond yourself. You got to see into the needs of your brother, see into the needs of your sister. I was just talking to a sister the other day and I said, you know, everybody's looking for their blessing and they think, okay, well, if I sow in this area, that means I'm going to reap in that area. But that's not the economy of the Most High Yah. You see, when you have the mindset that I am going to seek for the betterment of my brother or my sister, Yah will reward from a whole different direction because that's not what your motivation is. Your motivation isn't, oh, am I going to get paid? Your motivation isn't, oh, am I going to get some ducats in my pocket? Am I going to be able to add to my fortune and increase my portfolio? That's not your core mission. Your core mission is to store your treasure in heaven where moth nor rust can gain access and thieves cannot break in. You are having a kingdom mindset. You are looking out for the least of these. That's what he commanded, to look out for the least of these. And this is why our people don't have all the things that we should have because we're so self-absorbed. And we learn that through the systems of white supremacy. We've learned that through the pagan, idolatrous, Gentile systems that we have accepted their cultural norms and have put ours to the side. Our culture is kingdom. It is like the Godhead bodily, if you will.
Wow.
Okay, looking out for the interest, Father, Son, and Ruach, looking out for the interest of one another, working in perfect unity and harmony.
Yes.
That's how we're supposed to be working. But we can't get to that place until we stop thinking about me all the time and start thinking about we. So I love what you said.
That's awesome, sis. That's awesome. And I tell people the next step is autonomy, being self-sufficient spiritually when you're not dependent upon religion anymore. Being self-sufficient mentally, where the Most High can restore your mind, because a lot of us suffer from mental illnesses because after slavery, we were never given an institution to heal and to cope with the things that we've experienced. So that way our ancestors has epigenetically has transferred it down onto us today. There was no institute to heal our mind because we were tortured, we were gagged, we were raped, we were beaten, we were put in a slave of perpetual slavery where we didn't have any rights. We were less than a man. And you telling me you want a people like that to be super and great? You expect that from a people that you did all this to without giving them any form of mental reparation? So the Most High says, don't depend on man to do that because you have to come to me. If you go into my word and understand what I've given to your ancestors and you obey it faithfully, I will restore your mind. I will repair the things that are broken. I will lift up the things that have slanted and have been falling down to the ground. I will bear you up. And we have to come to that mindset now. So if we're able to create an environment that is conducive for him to arrive to, where we are doing for each other, and we're saying, look, I know we may have some doctrinal differences, but guess what? There's one thing that we can admit, and in our neighborhoods, there's poverty. There's no access to resources. There's no access to good health care. There's no access to this, that. So let's go. How about we go and debate on how good we can transform this community with this cultural paradigm of Torah that we have embedded in ourselves. Learn how to walk the Torah out practically like Yeshua taught and be able to galvanize the people back into a village state. So now we don't have to depend on the enemy. We have our own Goshen, and then we can say, Yah, chant down Babylon. I'm done, sis. Thank you so much.
And that's how you really keep it on code. That's how you get on code right there. You see, we don't understand what code is for real. Okay, code is us understanding that we are to work as one. That's what Yahusha said. I believe it was John chapter 17 when he was praying in the garden, is that the Father would make us one. And that's what we don't, that's what we have been missing for such a long time, because when we talk about autonomy, we're talking about being able to self-govern outside of the systems of the so-called democratic or Republican state. It's not that we don't have governance. We do. But it is a theocratic rule, and that he is the head and we are the body, and we have to learn how to function and operate together. Because I don't know, the last time I checked, when I stub my toe, my entire body suffers. It shifts to one side.
That little toe. It can be your pinky toe.
You know what I'm saying?
It's the pinky toe.
Mess you up all day for a couple of days. Okay, so we have to understand that what's happening to one is happening to all, whether or not we realize it.
That's it, sis. That's it. Oh man, I'm done. We're gonna burn the whole YouTube down if we keep talking. So
I know that's right. I want to thank you so much, for coming on and just reigniting our fire and helping us to understand there is a direction. Because I think what happens is that we see what's going on in the world, and it almost scares us. And the thing about fear is, with fear there is paralysis. Okay, so then you don't know what to do. You don't know how to move. But what we need to understand is that while the world is falling apart, we are supposed to be pulling together, like the dry bones, right? Man, the sinews coming together. The flesh.
Wait, sis. You gotta say that again. Stop, sis. Stop. You gotta say that again. Say that again.
I said, when the world is falling apart, that's when we're supposed to be coming together. Okay.
That's it. Go ahead.
That's what we're supposed to be doing. But it's the Most High, Yah. He is doing it. He's bringing us together, and I really thank him for just this interaction that we had tonight. I'm totally excited and fed and ready to go out and continue to serve and sing a praise song unto the Most High, and to be a vehicle of change within our community so that we can wake our people up.